Zimbabwe is in southern Africa. It may look small on the map, but it's 3 times the size of England. It's a beautiful country where the sun nearly always shines. There are wonderful wild animals to see, the land's good for farming, and under the soil are valuable minerals waiting to be mined. But what's it like actually living there? Let's pay a visit. This is St Mark's School, way out in the countryside. Each classroom is a separate building, and assemblies are held in the open air. The school was built about 100 years ago, and the buildings are getting a bit old, as you can see from the giant crack in the wall. Lessons aren't so very different from ours. Although at home many of the children speak a different language called Shona, at school nearly everything is in English. So they enjoy reading English books. Books are in short supply though at St Mark's, and you certainly won't find any computers. There's a good reason for that. St Mark's doesn't have any electricity. Neither does it have a mains water supply. If you want a drink, you have to pump it up by hand. You won't find much in the way of sports or games equipment, though they love to kick something around, whether it's a real football or not. There's not much musical equipment either, but it doesn't stop them dancing. In any case, you'd get plenty of exercise walking to school. None of your mums or dads would have cars. There's no bus, and other forms of transport can be a bit slow. Some of the pupils walk over 5 miles a day to get to and from school. So, where would you live? Homes in the country tend to be scattered, strung out along the road. Each will have at least one rectangular hut for living in, and always the typical round hut used for cooking. A fire is made in the centre, and smoke makes its way out through the thatch. Your food wouldn't vary much. Almost always sadza, a sort of porridge made from corn. You'd probably have some greens or gravy with it, and if you're very lucky, perhaps a bit of chicken or beef now and again. Your family might well keep your own chickens, and you'd certainly grow your own vegetables. You wouldn't go shopping very much. You may find a few stores at a crossroads like this, but otherwise you'd have to make the long trip to the town. And when you arrive there, you still might not find shopping that easy. To get some of the basic foods like sugar, oil or flour, you'd probably have to wait in a long queue. You'd find all sorts of other things for sale though. In a country where only 3 in every 10 grown-ups has a paid job, people have to scrape a living in any way they can. So many just gather what they can find to sell and set up a stall or spread it on the pavement. Of course, not everyone lives out in the countryside. Many live in what are often called townships, large areas of government-built housing. If you lived here, probably there'd be about 8 of you crammed into 2 or 3 rooms. And here too, you'd use your tiny patch of land to grow some vegetables. Life in Zimbabwe is hard, and often there isn't enough food. So what happens if you get ill? Well, out in the countryside, it's often left to the churches to provide what little health care there is. This is St Patrick's Clinic. It serves around 15,000 people from the surrounding villages and the next door primary and secondary schools. But at the moment it has very little to offer them. There are 3 nurses and 4 nursing assistants, but there's no doctor. Even if they can afford medicines or pills, sometimes what they need is just not available.
It's an emergency train, but the unfortunate part is that most of the drugs which are supposed to be used for emergency cases, they are out of stock.
An important part of the clinic's work is helping mothers and their newborn babies. For difficult births, though, as for all major problems, patients have to be taken on the long, bumpy drive to the district hospital in Gweru. If you live in England, You take a lot for granted. Doctors, medicines, books, toys, television, computers. You expect to go to secondary school and then go on to find a job. In Zimbabwe, it isn't like that. Only about half of all 11-year-olds will go on to any further schooling. And if you don't, then your chance of a job is almost nil. This is St Patrick's High School next door to the clinic and also run by the Anglican Church. About 500 young people can study here right up to A-level. And very good results they get too. If you have the chance to come here, then you work very hard. You know it's the passport to a better life. You might expect people whose lives are so poor to be without much hope. But if you met the Christians of Zimbabwe, you'd be in for a surprise. Here are people with joy and energy and belief in the future. St Matthew's is so packed that it's just built itself an enormous new church, recently opened. In St Andrew's Makoba, they've only just started clearing the ground, but they're also working to build their own church. Of course, you don't need a building in order to worship God. The parish of Zombi serves a vast area of countryside, and as yet they have no church building at all.
Ndosaka Jesu anga achiti baba ndipei kuti ndiwe ndinobwinya kuti zita renyu rigokwanisa kubwinya pakati mevanhu.
The parish is probably bigger than Surrey and South London put together. And they've travelled many miles today to be here. Now they're here, the service lasts for about 4 hours. The Christians of Zimbabwe believe in a better future and are determined to make it happen. In the country area of St Joseph's, the new priest has found his parishioners giving their time to build him a house.
All those builders, 6 of them, they are just giving their effort for free. And everything, the food which we give to the builders, the mothers will come and just work. They are much willing to work for their Lord.
Zimbabwean Christians are nothing if not resourceful. Here they've built a small kiosk to supply goods locally and give an orphan boy a job. The Mothers' Union makes and sells clothes to raise money for young priests in training. And in the town of Gweru, they've started a work supporting relatives who are caring for orphans. But their biggest dream in central Zimbabwe is to turn St Patrick's Clinic into a fully fledged hospital. It's early days yet, but they're working hard to make it happen. Church members from all over the area have been giving what they can, a sack of cement or even a window frame. And the young people have been gathering on Saturday mornings to make bricks. In all their difficulties, the people in Zimbabwe have learnt to put their hope in Christ. They trust God for those everyday things which we so easily take for granted. They worship Jesus with all their hearts, and they work hard to make things better. But sometimes a little bit of help from Christians here can just give them the kick-start they need. Here are a few of the things that churches and schools in South London and Surrey have helped provide in the past. An ambulance for the clinic, tables and chairs for St Mark's School, and a water tank for the high school. Our link with our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe is a two-way thing. We can give them a little, but they can teach us a lot.